Palage Sundarakaram Sadaika Priyadarshanam Ajnananashakam Devam Sadgurum Muralidharam Murali Mandita Karakamalam Unijana Mohanam Vyatyastapadam Vanamala Dharinam Prema Bhakta Mandala Nitya Kirtitam Premika Varadam Ashrayeham Sadguru Maharaj ki Jai. We can look at life, we can look at this world in two ways. As if everything is an accident, as if there is no purpose at all, or that there is a design, there is a purpose. Somebody has put these things in the right place, in the right time, in the right manner, in the right quantity, in the right proportion. And so this whole world is nothing but the manifestation of a divine design and a divine love. You can see it both ways. There is no purpose at all. Everything is doomed. Or there is a purpose, there is a design, there is an intelligence in play, and there is some aesthetics, beauty in play. With the blessings of our beloved Guru Maharaj, Maharanyam Shri Muralidhara Swamiji, and by the causeless mercy of Sri Madhuri Sakhi Samyata Premika Varada Thakurji, let us look at an alternate way of looking at the world through the eyes of love and divinity. As I said, if somebody is a believer of, say, non-vegetarianism, all right, such a word exists, I hope. When we look at a rabbit or we look at a duck, we look at a small little chicken or a rooster or a hen, we see a lovely little beautiful creature, a bird running around, and we look at the beauty of it. But for a person who is used to eating, say, flesh, meat, etc., that little cute rabbit, that waddling little duck, and this little paddling chicken or a hen appears to be food for them. And so the way they look at these things are very different from the way a Rasika looks at all these creatures. Which is the right way to look or which is the wrong way to look, we are not in the business of judging. I'm just showing you an alternate way of looking so that we can lead our life, our inner life, our outer life, our life of religion, our life of joy to the fullest. And when we have this way of looking at life, where we see not just dead food around, but life everywhere, right from the most insignificant atom, if we can say, there is life in the atom, na? There is something called a center, you call it nucleus, and all these little electrons are going around the nucleus. So there is a universe inside an atom. And the solar system has a nucleus, it's called the sun, and all these little planets like electrons are going around. You see, there is life everywhere. Now let's come to an interesting part of science which baffled me but not surprised me. It says there is nothing called empty space. You see, even a so-called empty space is bustling with quantum activity. So there is life everywhere. And if you go to quantum physics, etc., it seems to validate and vindicate whatever rishis have been saying, that all that exists is divine life. There is life everywhere. There is divinity everywhere. Only the extent to which it expresses may differ. And there are things, there is an innate intelligence in the most insignificant particle. And that's the beauty of a different worldview, where we don't look at the world as something dead, something inert, something dry, boring. The way in which Bhagavatam teaches us to see the world is to see it filled with divine love. Everything which happens around us is an expression of a divine love. Obviously, love cannot be inferred with a cold head. It has to be experienced with a warm heart. Okay. So here, for example, I was leaving home to go to my university. Let me give you the facts and then we will understand the truth. A little girl, not so little, she's around 18 years. She's just finished high school and she has luckily got into a wonderful university which is about 100 miles away or 1,000 miles away. And she was all set. She packed her car and all her belongings she packed. The mom had packed a lovely lunch for her for the way. And while she was just leaving the home, these are the facts. The mom was clutching her both hands together, constantly looking at her beloved daughter without batting an eyelid. And some liquid started flowing from the corner of her eyes. Her voice was faltering. And with great difficulty, she wiped the water coming from her eyes. And with a shaky voice said, "Have a very safe journey. May Krishna be with you. Radhe, Radhe." And she left. So these are the facts. Nobody can deny these facts. Now, nobody can prove that there is love involved in this, love and affection of a mother. Can anybody prove it? You can always say eyes came because the lacrimal or whatever you call the glands were active in the eyes. And the voice was faltering because there was some emotional problem. And the whole thing happened this way because there is a biological issue. Now, is this the way you want to look? The facts should lead to the truth, isn't it? The fact is teary eyes. Fact is faltering voice. Huh? The truth is a maternal love, a motherly love is at play out here. You see? So either you can look at this whole scene as there was one human being which had teary eyes and a faltering voice, looking at another human being which was biologically born to that. Is this the way we want to look? The heart of a Bhagavata looks at or sees the beautiful maternal love flowing towards the daughter who is going to leave the home and possibly go to a college for say 6 months or 7 months, and only then we can see her again. And the mother who had not even once ever, so the mother is not going to see the daughter for about 6 months, and that's what is evoking the love which was deep inside, latent inside, is now manifesting out in form of tears in the eyes, faltering voice, and a trembling tone. You see? So the heart of a Rasika looks at the play of love in this situation. And in Bhagavatam, when that love becomes complete, we start looking at everything around us in the eyes of love. Is it right or wrong is a very moot question. That's not the right question also. The actual question is, how do you want to see things which are around us? Do you want to see with the eyes of love, or you want to see with a cold rationale of selfishness? Eyes of love knows no selfishness. And the cold rationale of selfishness is completely the play of ego. Where there is ego, there is selfishness. What do I get out of it? Where there is love, how can I be of service to my beloved? Is what love is, isn't it? Love is about giving. I'm talking about Bhagavata Dharma's love. And this selfishness is all about taking. You see, what do I get? It's a pure business equation, right? But when the love is complete, the way you look at stuff becomes metamorphosized. It becomes transformed. It becomes beautiful. And that is what is very silently being taught by our Bhagavatam without telling us this is how you need to do, etc. but transforming us silently, quietly. And that is the beauty which we sort of scratched the surface or exposed ourselves a little bit in the last session, last fortnight. And I am again talking about Venu Gitam only. And Venu Gitam, as Bhaktas celebrate, is one of the most supreme Gitams because it is a door for us to go and explore the real heart of love of those who were the very epitome of love called Gopis. You see, Gopis are placed even above Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Can you believe it? So that's the sthana for Gopis. And imagine Radha Devi, whom you see in our Namadwaar, whom we see in our Madhurapuri ashram. Radha Devi is the queen of all Gopis. So imagine Bhagavan, all the Gopis prema, and above all the Gopis is Srimati Radharani. That's where she stands. So when we are a little, biased towards Radharani, even more biased than Krishna to Radharani, there is a good reason for it. Okay. And the reason is love. Love binds even Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Our Duryodhana tried to bind Krishna in Mahabharata with force. He had so many armed people. Krishna went there unarmed. You see. And he tried to bind Krishna with his force, with authority. And Krishna showed his Vishwarupa Darshana to them, and then the famous, index finger wag he did. Hey, Duryodhana, be careful. And then all this little wagging of your tail won't work with me. He just left coolly, you see. And that's when you try to bind him with efforts, at times, coercive efforts or intimidating efforts, nothing can bind Krishna. But then the same story, when Krishna was young, a totally innocent, unarmed gopi who had no powers, no siddhis, could casually bind Krishna to a mortar, which is Yashoda Maya. And how was that being bound there? It was not the rope which bound Bhagavan Sri Krishna. It was actually the wonderful love she had for Krishna. Her whole life was centered around Krishna. All the time she used to think, what do I make for Krishna? What do I do for Krishna? How do I offer myself for Krishna as a mother? So that love casually bound Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So the love of the gopi. That's why Kunti Devi refers to our Yashoda Maya not by name. She has so much reverence. She could even call her elder brother Vasudeva by name. Krishnaya, Vasudevaya, Devaki Nandanaya, Nandagopa Kumaraya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Our Swamiji used to say in Bhagavatam, every shloka can give a big story, and the whole story can be condensed by one sloka. It need not be a very intricate shloka like we saw in Shruti Gita about when you keep when you keep your foot in one place, it is as good as keeping the foot in the whole earth. One small step for humankind and all that stuff. You remember that, I hope. It's not necessary that only those types of slokas need to give volumes. Even a simple bhajan sloka, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha, can give you the whole story of Krishna. And here, our Kunti Devi talked about Krishna, Vasudeva, which means Vasudeva's son. So her brother Vasudeva, Devaki Nandanan, Nanda Gopa Kumara. See, our Yashoda Maya is very conspicuous by her absence in the sloka. Na? Why? Because Gopi Prema cannot be put in the same line, cannot be spoken in the same breath as even Krishna, even Vasudeva, even Devaki. Why? Even Nanda Baba. It has to be dedicated. Our Kunti Devi wanted to dedicate a separate sloka for Yashoda Maya. Look at the amount of respect she had for Yashoda Maya. In fact, another thing which is very conspicuous by the absence is the name Yashoda in her Gopya. She just said Gopi, the one who was bound by a Gopi. You see, generally when we say that to show the amount of respect we have for a person, instead of calling the name of the person, we just say, look at that Gopi, she managed to actually tie our Bhagavan Sri Krishna to a mortal. And so here, very beautifully, our Kunti Devi, by conspicuously omitting the mention of Yashoda Maya in the Krishnaya Vasudevaya sloka and omitting mentioning her name in the Damodara Leela sloka is showing her tremendous reverence for that Gopi who showed the maternal affection to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. See, Bhagavatam speaks volumes by mentioning something. Bhagavatam speaks greater volumes by dropping a mention of somebody. And that is how Bhagavatam speaks. That's why there is no end to the relish, no end to the rasa in enjoying Bhagavatam. And remember, we talked about Pratibha and the rest. Each time, if you can Krishnaya, Vasudevaya, Devaki, Nandanaya cha, if you do japa of that mantra, slowly that mantra, that Bhagavata mantra itself will open the vistas of greater and greater understanding and experience, because that is the divinity of Bhagavata. As I said, we can look at everything as something dead and inert. We can also look at everything as a source of divinity and love. Bhagavatam is enthusing us to see the world in the latter view, which is to see the world as filled with divine love. So when somebody is in, say, love, then the whole ambience around seems to reflect their mood inside, isn't it? The world is like a mirror. You see, you all know that. When you are in the best of your spirits, even a gloomy day would inspire a happy song. When we are in a very dull spirit, etc., even a sunny day will inspire a gloomy song. So the whole world is a reflection of what we are inside. And let us put it outward. Bhagavatam is showing the whole world as a reflection of divine love, so that it transforms that which is inside into divine love. So it is commutative principle. You see, in high school math, you read commutative property. A equals B means B equals A. So if the heart is filled with love, the entire ambience of what happens around me is reflecting that divine love. And how do I get my heart into the divine love? I actually look at a reflection of a divine lover, and I start practicing, or at least I start accepting and imbibing the divine reflection of a divine lover, which is called the world in me. Then that slowly influences me to get into divine love. This is the very subtle way in which Bhagavatam, which is like a father to us, slowly makes us step into divine love. You see? And that's what is the beauty of Venu Gitam. In the Venu Gitam, if you see, less is talked about Krishna. Very few slokas. He is very beautiful. That's it. And little more is talked about the flute and the sweet notes of love which emanates from the flute of Bhagavan Sri Krishna is talked about little more. But the maximum talk out here is how this entire universe reflects the divine love when Bhagavan starts playing the flute. Now, why should somebody, let me give you a small example, just to make a point. Since we are all friends and part of a family, I wouldn't dare to tell that in a sabha or in a big hall where all these formal listeners come and sit down. I will tell them formal story. But we are all family, and we are all brothers and sisters, so we can explore that and open our heart. Suppose I go to a kacheri, I go to a recital, Carnatic recital, and I'm writing a review. So I started the review saying the Kalakar, the one who is actually the singer, came and sat on the stage. It was so beautiful. The singer was so beautiful to look at, and the mic was very well arranged. And then she started singing. The rest of my 1,000-page essay is about how the first row reacted, how the second row reacted, how the third row reacted. And I'm not talking about the singer at all here. I'm talking about the one which the hall, the audience, and the ambience when the singer started singing. Now, why would I do that? Will my article ever get published? Huh? It will never get published. Why? Because when it comes to a normal singer, people would like to know what the singer sang and how the alapana was there and all that, you see. But when it comes to divine love of the gopis, the reason why Shukamuni is picking those verses which emanated from the heart of the gopis is, he is slowly bringing our heart to synchronize with the heart of gopis by making us listen to the way in which they saw the world when they were in that great blissful experience of love. That's how beautiful, because we can keep repeating Bhagavatam Natavara, and of course, that word itself has the power. It is Krishna's most beautiful form. It will inspire love in our heart. But the easier way for us to get that is to actually repeat Venu Gitam, because in the Venu Gitam, our gopis are looking at the world in a very, very different way. And while they are looking at the world in this different way, and they are expressing it to us, when we listen and we start seeing what the gopis see, then we start being what gopis are. Because we see what we are, and we are what we see, commutativeness. And so I can't practice love. I can't do penance for love. Love has to be blessed. And who has to bless it? Only gopis can bless it. And how do the gopis bless it? They have already blessed us. How? Because they have already given their experience in form of Bhagavatam. And now we are more fortunate because most of the Madhura Gitams, which talks about Krishna Prema, etc., are actually the leaves taken from the heart of a gopi, which came through the voice of our Guru Maharaj. And so we have this wonderful experience which has been made concrete, which has been given Shabdam and given to us as Panchagitam. It has been given to us as Bhagavatam. And as we listen to Bhagavatam, as we allow this way of looking at the world, we have to allow our ego to sort of give way so that we can start looking the way in which gopis looked at this world. Then slowly our heart also gets transformed. Instead of being a very cold-hearted, rational, and calculative, egoistic tendencies start slowly diminishing. We may need it when we have to deal with the world, but deep inside, as a person, we need to be free from all this disease, isn't it? As a role, we may have to take all this rationality, etc. But as a person, that which I am, our Shastras say is love. Tasya priyameva chiraha. And that joy, that bliss is what I am. So me as a person should be free from all this stuff which I told before. Me as a person should be the very fountainhead of love and the fountainhead of bliss. And Bhagavatam exactly, beautifully, subtly, sublimely takes us to that state of being in that state of love, the same love which gopis are. And I'll just give you a small sample, because every verse in Venu Gitam is a book in itself. It's a treasure in itself. I will take 1/4 of a sloka to show how beautiful this Venu Gitam is. And then nothing is complete without referring to a Mahatma. And I will conclude that with a small story of a Mahatma from Vrindavan. So here, in the, I think it's the 9th sloka of the 21st chapter, our Gopis are looking at the Venu Gitam and the wonderful Vamshidharan, our Sri Muralidharan, who is actually playing the flute. And then she's saying, she looked around, there was this Yamunaji running, and then there are lot of groves, lot of, little forests and wilderness around this Yamunaji. And they looked at one portion of our Yamuna's bank, and they say in the 9th sloka of the 21st chapter of the 10th canto, Krishyatvacho ashrumuchu staravo yataryaha. Then the last part, or the last 1/4 quarter of the 9th sloka, where our Gopis say this bamboos, they are flowering and the nectar is dropping from the flowers of the bamboos. Now a botanist would look at, yeah, there is a tree called, or there is a small bush called a bamboo thicket is there, and bamboos do flower. And of course, if there is flower, there is nectar there, and that flower is just shedding nectar. That's the fact. But how do we want to look at it, given the fact that we are filled with love for Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the Lord of the universe, is playing the flute. Here they are saying, already our Yamunaji is Prema Nadi, which we saw, and she nourished a lot of little water bodies out there, like how a Mahatma or the Prema of a Mahatma empowers the Prema of all the small satsangs in various places. And those satsangs inspire elders not by age, elders by maturity, to understand the greatness of Krishna Bhakti. And it goes and nourishes the elders who are not directly in the satsang but influenced by satsang. And those elders are this bamboo thicket, it seems. You see, generally a family means there should be grandmother, grandfather, grandfather's brother, grandfather's sister, everybody staying in the big mansion, and then there will be sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters. It should be a big village in itself, you see. That's what defines a real family. Na? And generally bamboo fits the definition perfectly, because the bamboo actually doesn't grow like palm trees. If 2 palm trees are nearby, it actually becomes a problem for each of the palm trees. So generally when you plant a coconut or a palm tree, you need to give enough space for it so that each of it can thrive. But then there are some species in this wonderful creation of Bhagavan, where when they grow together, they supplement each other and they thrive each other in their proximity. That's how a family should be now. And one such example is a bamboo. Generally, if you have been to wilderness where there are bamboo thickets, I have seen many places where there are bamboo thickets. I've seen that even in US, where there are many places where bamboos grow very well naturally. You find that they cluster together and a bamboo thicket grows, like 20 bamboos, 30 bamboos together in a small thicket grows together. And after a few meters, you will find another thicket, like another family of bamboos. So here, our Gopis sees those bamboos in the bank of our Yamunaji. It is like a very thickly, bond families, thickly bound families with all the people sticking together, etc. And generally the flower is seen only from the outermost top bamboo. Na? So that bamboo is taken as the grandfather of the family. And the little flower which flowers out and shedding the nectar from the flower, the Gopis don't see it as an inanimate little flower from a tree. They say, look at this. These bamboos, the elderly bamboos, are now shedding tears of joy. They are in great bliss. And another Gopi said, why is this Tata feeling so happy? And why is he shedding tears of joy? And the Gopi said, you know why? It is because their grandson, the young little bamboo, was picked by Bhagavan Sri Krishna to become his flute. So the elders were all so happy that my parent, my pota, my grandson has now doing Krishna Seva. He has dedicated himself to Krishna Kainkarya, and that's a source of great blessing to the whole family, to the whole lineage. And remembering how their grandson, the little bamboo, has become the flute in the hands of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, all of them were shedding tears of joy. And like when you have a round table meeting, all the elders are so close, sitting with each other in a tinde and discussing about their family. This thicket of bamboos listening to this elderly grandfather bamboo telling, my grandson has become the flute in the hands of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. How blessed have all of us become that we were able to dedicate one of our family to the seva of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And so they were shedding tears of joy because one of their own is in the hands of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. You see, this is the 1/4 of the sloka, Gopi Hrudayam. Why I am telling you all that is, by our Guru Maharaj's grace, I am sure each of you would go to Vrindavan very soon. When I say soon, maybe 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. You see, when you go there, it is not another place for tourism. It is not even another Kshetra Yatra visit. It should be an experience in itself. When you go inside Vrindavan and you may have to come out of it, you should not be the same person. Bhagavatam ensures that if you, experience Bhagavatam the way in which it has to be experienced, when you get a chance to go to our Vrindavan, you would actually start seeing what we all have been reading in Vrindavanam, so that when you come out, you are transformed, you see. And that's the whole point, because bhakti is an experience. It is not some logic. It is not something which can be indoctrined. It is not something which can be even preached. Can you preach love? I don't think so. Love has to flower. And what we can preach is Nama. You can say, please chant the divine name. That can be done. There is nothing to do in love. Na? Love is a state of being. Love is flowering in our heart. It has to happen on its own spontaneity. So here, very beautifully, our Gopis say, look at this wonderful, fortunate Murali. It is now very close to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. In that, can you see the tinge of sadness that we are all hiding somewhere here, watching it from a distance? When this Murali, this little flute, is now being very close to Krishna, and it is having a very nice time with Krishna, and you can see a tinge of sadness in their heart that Murali is very fortunate. But what about us? We are so far away here. You see, that's what is called the Dwani. That's the hint our Gopis are telling without telling in this lovely quarter of the sloka, where they say, Krishyatvacho Ashrumumuchus Taraboyatarya. So all these Arya means very senior, respectable people. And so all these wonderful bamboos were rejoicing and sharing this joy that one of their own clan, one of their own family has joined Krishna Seva and actively saving Bhagavan Sri Krishna. That's the beauty of this Venu Gitam, isn't it? And this Venu took an avatar. And it took an avataram and became an Acharya Purusha. And that Acharya Purusha's name is called Sri Hitaharivamsa Maharaj. He was one of the 4 Char Sampradaya in Vrindavan. There are 4 major Sampradayas in Vrindavanam, of which our Hitaharivamsa is one Sampradaya. And it is said that he is a very incarnation of Venu. You see? And one of the most famous bhajan songs, which most of you would have heard, relished and enjoyed, which is very beautiful. Personally, it's a great joyful Namavali, very simple one. Radhika Vallabha Lalu Ho, Radha Vallabha Lalu Ho, Gopika Vallabha Lalu Ho, Hitaharivamsa Dayalu Ho. That's what the Namavali is. Now I told you, na, Krishnaya Vasudevaya. The beauty with this Namali is it captures the very life and the essence of Hitaharivamsa in 2 lines. Because the actual deity which came to our Hitaharivamsa is a very interesting story. Let me tell you very shortly his life story. This happened around 700 years back or so. And our Hitaharivamsa Maharaj was born in and around Mathura only. And our Hitaharivamsa Maharaj was tremendously devoted to Radharani. Why? Very simple. The only words our Murali or Vamshi can actually chant is Radharani's name. Most of you learn Ashtapati also. We need to be really, really thankful to our family, to our satsang, and above all to our Thakurji, and above all to our beloved Guru Maharaj for exposing us to so fine, beautiful stuff, which is the real cream de la cream of our religion, which is Ashtapati, Bhagavatam, Madhura Gitam, Bhajans, Yugala Seva, Utsavams. These are the real cream. Rest is all, details. Okay. So in Ashtapati, our Jayadeva Swami hints that by saying, Nama sametam krita sanketo vadayate mrutuvenu. And our Swamiji has also written that in Tamil, in one of the Madhura Gitam, that our Venu constantly chants the Radharani's name. Radhe, 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 என்று குழலோசை செய்கின்றான் முரளிதர யமுனா தீரத்தில். So Murali knows only the words Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. When that Murali comes down as an Acharya Purusha, what will that Acharya Purusha constantly say? Radhe, Radhe. And so Hitaharivamsa was tremendously devoted to Radharani, and even more devoted to Radharani than Bhagavan Sri Krishna, if at all such a statement can be logically made. So when he was a child, such was his brilliance that he was a child and he barely started to walk. And a great mahatma by the name Sri Narasimha Ashrami, or some people call him Achyuta Dasar, he came to visit this divine child because he was a mahatma. He knew that this child was not a normal child. So when he came and sat near the little cradle and started singing Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, he found that the moment he said Radhe, this little child in the cradle started shedding tears of joy and started clapping the hands, showing tremendous bliss in the face. And he was so astounded. Of course, he was a Mahapurusha, but at such a young age, which is hardly 2 years, 3 years, this little child is responding to Radha Rama. And when he came closer and closer to the cradle, only he could hear perfect Sanskrit verses emanating from the heart of this child. And he started writing it down, and we have that as a great text to this day. Such is the greatness of that Mahatma. And one day when this Mahatma was playing with this friends of his, he accidentally fell into a well and he didn't come out at all. And they sent somebody to, try to see if he can be brought out of the well. When he came out, he came with a wonderful Archavataram of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and he held tight to that Archavataram, and he came out of that well with Krishna. And that was the greatness of this Mahatma. He was staying in one of the places where the Krishna in the house where he stayed came to him in a divine darshan and said, please take me to Vrindavan. I want to go with you, be with you in Vrindavan. Krishna does that. And at some point of time, I'll tell you about the experiences of our Swamiji also with Krishna. And that little Krishna which you see in Premika Bhavanam actually begged our Swamiji to be taken to Premika Bhavanam about 30 years, 35 years back. So all these little forms of Krishna have their own story, they have their own bhava, only Mahatmas can discern it. So he took that Krishna, and the owner of the house wanted to give Krishna, but he also requested him to take his daughter also as his consort, and since she could not be separated from Krishna, so he married her, took Krishna and brought the Krishna to Vrindavan. And his deity, whom he was specially attached to, is called Radha Vallabh Swami. And that is the reason why this Namavali refers to that deity which was specifically named by our Hitaharivamsa or specifically worshipped by Hitaharivamsa. So every word of this Namavali has a story. Radhika Vallabha Laluho, Radha Vallabha Laluho, Gopika Vallabha Laluho, Hitaharivamsa Dayaluho. Now, just like Krishnaya Vasudevaya, do you see something which is conspicuous by absence? That which is absent in this Namavali is a direct reference to Krishna as an individual. Na? Here there is no Krishna, Achyuta, Govinda, nothing. It is Radhika Vallabh, Radha Vallabh, Gopika Vallabh. That's it. And that's the very philosophy of this Mahatma. Without Radha Devi, Krishna is not even looked upon. If you are a Radha Vallabha, then I will look at you. You derive your divinity, sweetness, loveliness because you are Radha Vallabha. You derive this wonderful greatness and sweetness because you are a Radhika Vallabha. I worship you because you are a Gopika Vallabha. And for him, Radha Devi is above all these people. In fact, he goes on to write a verse which is the height of rasa. See, facts are different, truth of a rasa is different. The reason for our Bhagavan Sri Krishna to descend, Bhagavad Gita will tell you something. Even Bhagavatam will tell you in the initial stage a lot of things. Kamsavadam, Jarasandavadam, you have Sishupala Dantravaktra. And our Swamiji says, why should Krishna come for all this? You just need to arrange a small earthquake in the palace of a Kamsa and finish. Bhagavan has to come, jump so high, give a big blow to him. All that is not required. So then they say, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. That is for people who are not Rasikas. And it is true. See, all these are facts. But a rasa goes and transcends all this. Then somebody says, for the giving pushti, nourishment to love. Oh, true. But then the highest truth our Hitaharivamsa is saying, our Bhagavan Sri Krishna was searched by Narada Bhagavan, and finally he goes to all the three worlds. Finally they tell Narada, hey Narada, you know where Krishna is nowadays? He is only in Vrindavan. If you go there, you can catch him. So he goes there, and then first he enters into the house of Nanda Baba, and then he asks Yashoda Maya, where is Krishna? Yashoda Maya says, even I am searching for him from morning. I don't know where is he. Then he goes to all these little Gopas. Have you seen Krishna? The Gopa says, no, we are waiting with the marbles. We are waiting with the Gilidanda. We are waiting for him to come. He is not to be seen. Then Narada goes in search of Krishna. Krishna is sitting in the banks of Yamuna Ji, waiting for somebody. And Narada Maharshi saw Krishna. Krishna said, wait, don't disturb me. And what is Krishna waiting for is, it seems our Swamini, our Radharani passes that place. And while passing, she just, snaps her saree's edge a little bit like this. And from that snap of that saree's edge, a few particles of dust will come, it seems. And Bhagavan wants that 2-3 particles of dust to be adorned on his head. And our Hitaharivamsa says, this is the reason why Krishna was born as Krishna in Vrindavan, to adorn his head with the particles of dust which emanates from the movement of our Radharani. Now do you understand what a rasa is, what a rasika is, how far they are flying, how high they are flying? And you go to a rasika and ask, is there God? Why is God not compassionate? Now what will they do? How can they answer all this? And just to give you a sideline here, that's the state our Guru Maharaj is. But the beauty of our Guru Maharaj is, in spite of being in that height of rasa, he also, out of his, I don't know, compassion or tremendous compassion or incredible compassion, comes down and then he inquires, have you finished your homework? Have you done this? Have you eaten? Go have some coffee and then come. Now you understand that's the state they are in. And that's the state which, even if we stand upside down, we cannot aspire to get until it is blessed by some great Mahatma who is already in that state. And that is the state of all these Mahatmas. Greater than the Siddhis, greater, all that is Alpam. You see, I don't even want to give an example given by Mahatmas for all that. I went to a great Mahatma, he exactly told what happened in the past, Alpam. I went to a Mahatma, he told how my future is going to be Alpam. You know, in the rasam, the prema, the rasam, the love, and their depth of their experience, all these Alpams is so low. It is somewhere in the underground, the 14th floor. And they are flying above SpaceX. You see, that is the actual difference you have to understand, where our definition of Mahatma has become very loose. Somebody manages to buy heart a lot of slokas and say Mahatma. Somebody knows a little astrology, predicts Mahatma. Mahatma. As far as Krishna devotees are concerned, a person with the tremendous love for Krishna, or even above that, tremendous love, regard, worshipful devotion towards Radharani is only considered as worthy of adoration, you see. And that is the heart of a gopi. That is the heart of the divine love. And that's what we need to aspire for. And Bhagavatam is that wonderful, supremely high poetry which makes our heart filled with prema, filled with rasa, filled with delight. And that's what we all need to aspire for. And that's what we aspired for. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this satsang. We wouldn't be sitting with Bhagavatam in our hands. And we wouldn't be persisting with the Parayan, or we wouldn't be persisting with the Shravanam, or we wouldn't be persisting with Pravachan, etc. And that is the wonderful rasa of our lovely religion, which is way above the state of Mirabai, the state of Sri Andal, the state of all the Gopis, and state of all these Mahatmas, like, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Sri Vallabhacharya Mahaprabhu, or Hitaharivamsa Mahaprabhu, or Nimbarka Mahaprabhu. All these they are in an incredibly different plane or height of flying in the spiritual skies, that they are exploring the rasa, and out of their compassion, they also share the small, droplets of that rasa, which is enough for our lifetime. You see, such is the beauty of every shloka of Bhagavatam, specifically 10th canto, specifically Vrindavana portion of the 10th canto, and specifically the words in the heart of a gopi is the real heart of Bhagavatam. But to get there, we have to wade through 9 cantos. We have to wade through 9 characteristics so that we finally reach to the heart of a gopi, which is the heart of love, heart of sacrifice, heart of selflessness. That's the heart which Bhagavan pines for. That's the beauty of our Venu Gitam, and that's the beauty of all the Mahatmas. And just like how Venu constantly chants Radhe Radhe, Every avataram of the Venu also keeps chanting Radhe Radhe only. And I gave you an example of Hitaharivamsa's wonderful life story. And I thought I will share that with you. And today is another lovely day. And a lovely day because a day which has gone past after we have touched and chanted at least one sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of our satsang persons looked like they talked with all of you. And I'm so pleased to hear that you are all relishing it. You are all hearting it. And you're also with me because I wasn't sure how far do I have to go, because I spend barely a few hours with each of you when I come there. But what she gave me as a feedback is very, very heartwarming, that you really understand, that you really rejoice, that you really reflect, that you really are in step with what myself or Purnima ji are trying to tell and share with you all. That itself is a great source of joy. That itself is a sure sign that our Guru Maharaj is blessing us day in and day out.